Welcome to Building Toronto's Skyline, a podcast exploring the current state of Toronto's construction and development industry from a unique construction perspective through engaging and entertaining podcast interviews with the many stakeholders in the industry. This podcast is brought to you by Fusion Corp, a construction management company. Here's the founder and CEO of Fusion Corp Developments, Inc., and author of Building Toronto's Skyline and Battle of the Skyscrapers, the host of this podcast, Nick Ainis. How you doing, Nick?
Well done. You hit that perfectly.
It took me how many months to nail it?
You're doing good. I've heard you.
Heard me worse.
Heard your words. Everything's going good. It's exciting time. I'm always optimistic. What can I say?
Well, it's almost Halloween. Have you decided what you'll be wearing for Halloween?
Oh, good question. I'll probably just dress up like a construction guy.
Okay. Situation normal.
Exactly. So everything okay with you?
Everything's good here. I'm just adapting to the fact that I can't wear shorts and sandals anymore. Like, it feels wrong. I feel like we're living in the wrong climate.
Well, you can always move to the U.S.
Well,
Florida.
There's other options, Nick. I'm thinking Mexico maybe. What do you think?
I would be careful of that. You never know. You might lose your shorts and your shirt. So, but so we have a great guest today, Mike and Les Klein from BP Quadrangle, and very exciting, amazing person with amazing credentials and long history of being an architect in the city of Toronto and all over the world, and we're going to hear a lot of things today, and I'm very excited. Les,
I'm excited.
How you doing?
I'm doing well.
That's good. I see you got an amazing setup at your office there. You got the podcast booth. Not many people have one of those things, but you're a lucky man.
Well, we're in the world of podcasts. Shocking how much time I spend listening to podcasts, and it's a great way to engage with ideas, some of which you're comfortable with and some of which you might be less comfortable with. But it forces you to think, and I think that's a great venue for that.
Yeah, and it's exciting. Ideas are always the first. They get you excited and kind of get you into that zone where you're excited about life. Always gives you some hope and joy, and being an entrepreneur, I'm always thinking about ideas, things that I can improve in my business, or maybe there's another venture that I want to do, and there's all sorts of things, and these are the things that wake us up in the morning and give us energy. So at least for me.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
Yeah, so we hope to talk about some many amazing topics. So we're going to get started.
I'm in your hands, Nick. I'm in your hands.
All right. That's a good place to be.
Careful what you wish for.
No, Mike, settle down. So, so Les, so you are kind of like an amazing individual in the industry. You're, got an amazing company. You've been in the industry for quite some time. You've probably seen so many ups and downs. And I think it's great to have you here. Tell us a little bit about we'd like to hear a little bit about your background and, where you came from. Start from the beginning. We want to know, like, where were you born in Canada? Like, all of these things. We want to hear everything.
Well, I have
Cole's Notes version, of course.
I have a checkered past, but I was, I think it's important for people to know. I was born in Hungary. And I'm the child of two Holocaust survivors.
Wow.
Who returned to Hungary after the war. And then in 1956, when the Hungarian Revolution broke out, through a combination of bravery and sheer luck, we all managed to escape to the United States.
Wow.
Where I was a little refugee boy who didn't know a word of English, and neither did my parents. And we had to work quite hard to fit in.
Right.
And a lot of the story of my life is about this notion of belonging and the responsibilities that come along with belonging. So I grew up in the U.S. My dad was a rabbi. My mom was a teacher. My sister and I grew up in a whole variety of places, but we ended up in New Hampshire, where my dad was the rabbi of one of the Jewish congregations. And I was very, very lucky because after high school, I managed to get into MIT. And I went to MIT knowing that I would be a theoretical mathematician.
Oh, wow.
And here I am today. As I like to say, when I got to MIT, I met real theoretical mathematicians. And these were people who were way smarter than me, but maybe had not quite as many social skills. Okay. And I decided to pursue a double degree, one in mathematics and one in architecture. I stayed there through and got my master's there.
So how did you make that? So how did you make that transition? Like mathematics, it's on the left. That's completely, from going mathematics to architecture. You're going from using one side of your brain to the other side of the brain.
Well, that's the interesting thing, and I say this to a lot of people at MIT. Everything, whether you're studying history, social politics, electrical engineering, nuclear science, or architecture, it's about problem solving. Mm-hmm. And to my brain, that was a perfect fit because mathematics is about problem solving. It's about rational thinking, and architecture is about problem solving. We kind of set the notion that this is a creative art, not to one side, but rather we looked at design as one of the many tools that we use to create architecture and ultimately buildings. That really appealed to me. And it appealed to me because instead of working in the world of theory, I was working in the real world. Right. And one of the fun things about architecture, one of the best things about architecture, notwithstanding what you read in the books and you see in the movies, it's actually about collecting a set of parameters and figuring out what the most optimal solution is.
Right.
The other thing that I kind of internalized when I was there was that there's not one solution to any problem. So very early on in my career, I decided I was not going to be one of those architects that draw beautiful drawings. I was going to be one of those architects that build buildings. Right. And in order to do that, you have to figure out a solution that works for everybody.
Right.
So that appealed to me. It was kind of, a perfect fit for my little brain. Anyway, I went to MIT, and when I graduated, in my impeccable timing, managed to graduate in the first of 7 recessions I have been through in my career. There was virtually no work in the U.S. And a friend of mine said, there's this place up there, I don't know, across the border somewhere called Toronto. Apparently there's some work for architects, and it's kind of a city that's starting to grow. So interestingly enough that you mentioned the CN Tower, because I very, very clearly remember packing all of my things into my baby blue Gremlin, driving across the border and driving along the Gardiner Expressway for the very first time. And I saw them forming the very top of the CN Tower.
Well, that must
it was not quite finished, but I went, oh, this is kind of like a real city. This is cool. Anyway, I got a great job offer. I got 2 job offers, but selected one, and I worked for AJ Diamond and Associates, now Diamond Schmidt, for 3 years. Yeah. And I should also say that when I moved to Toronto, I did not know a single person.
Wow.
So to me, I was a stranger. But it was one of those places where a person with a little bit of curiosity and a little bit of imagination and a little bit of excitement could meet people from around the world. I mean, even in those days, a significant portion of my earliest friends were from away. They were from somewhere else, not from Toronto.
Right.
And we kind of clustered together as people in a new city and made our way. Anyway, I worked for that firm for 3 years. I became an associate, and then I got my registration from the Ontario Association of Architects.
Yeah.
And kind of because, if I can say this without sounding obnoxious, I didn't have anything, so I didn't have anything to lose. And I had a lot of people who were saying to me, you should start your own practice. You should start your own practice. So I said, okay, I'll start my own practice. So I hung up my shingle, as they say, 1-person practice. I was living and working if I can say this also, in an illegal loft at the corner of King and Parliament, paying the princely sum of $250 a month for a 750 square foot, absolutely bare loft.
Wow.
It was an adventure. And, very quickly I built out my kitchen, my washroom. And interestingly enough, that loft was the first thing I ever had published.
Oh, wow.
I had a friend who also was living in the building and who was in the journalism business. He had a friend who worked for a Swiss architecture magazine, and he did a spread on all of these illegal lofts in this building, including mine, where like several pages of stuff, which was including my entire wall of Newcastle brown ale cans in my kitchen, which was decorative,
Yeah, give it that
working on a budget here. We're working on a budget here.
Yeah.
Reuse, recycle. Anyway, so started my practice there, and very quickly I got lots of work. First of all, I hired one employee and then a second employee, and then things were getting very busy. So I asked a friend of mine if he would join me and help me do construction documents, whatever. He joined me. Very quickly, we decided we were going to form a partnership, became Klein and Taylor. Mm-hmm. Shortly thereafter, we landed another bunch of projects, and we asked another friend to come in. He was a heritage architect, very well-known heritage architect named Philip Goldsmith. Mm-hmm. And he joined us, and we became Klein Taylor Goldsmith. And then in 1986, a very close friend of mine who was also an architect and had a partnership with a friend of his, decided that he was going to leave the practice and become a developer. And he said to me and to his partner, "You guys should put your two firms together. You'd be great." Wow. And that was the birth of Quadrangle.
Yeah.
So
I guess quad meaning, the four
partners. Yeah. Four partners, four corners. A quadrangle is a place in the university where ideas are exchanged. It was a
great name.
But actually, it's an important thing because what the Ontario Association of Architects called anonymous names was not allowed under the Architects Act. We had to give them a rationale for why we wanted to use this name instead of our names.
Oh, wow.
But our philosophy was we did not want this firm to be about us. We wanted this firm to be about the firm.
Right.
So that people would be able to feel that they were actually part of it. They weren't just working for somebody, they're working with somebody. And I think that formed a really different attitude that we had about the way an architectural firm could be.
Oh, that's
so. Now,
story.
Of course, we've got all these names and different people using different names, which is great. I'm happy to see that. But for us, it was actually an essential element of who we wanted to be. Sorry, I told you what to talk about.
Oh, no. By all means, we're listening today, and don't worry, I'll ask questions. Did your parents ever join you back in Canada, or?
No.
They stayed in the US.
They stayed in the U.S. My sister and her family are still in the U.S.
Oh, wow.
It's an interesting thing because I am forever grateful that the United States, allowed us as immigrants to arrive on the shores and to, work hard and to create a life for ourselves. And that's why I'm a huge supporter of immigration as an approach. Mm-hmm. Not immigration for immigration's sake, but immigration as a means for people to be able to raise themselves up.
Yes, for sure.
I'm sure you have a similar story.
Well, we all have
your family,
yeah,
right?
We have all the same stories. Yeah, my great grandfather came in the early 1920s.
Wow,
wow! And because of some issue in northern Greece where Macedonians were frowned upon,
right?
They couldn't they couldn't speak their own language, so he escaped and came to Canada and. The rest is history.
You are.
Here I am.
Yeah. But
I wish I was. I wish they left me a fortune, but they didn't. But it's okay.
Well, we're in the same boat on that score as well. But you know what? There is something to be said. And again, I have said this about my late. So I should say my partner who we joined our two firms together to form Quadrangle. His name was Brian Kurtner. A wonderful, wonderful guy. He was my partner for 29 years before he passed away very, very sadly 10 years ago.
Yeah, sorry.
But he and I had a very strong philosophy that everything we ever will have will come out of what we put into this firm. And therefore, we were very, very conservative. I don't know how much you tolerate slightly colorful language, but we had two philosophies in our partnership. One is don't rest on your laurels.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how good you are, you need to be better tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And the second was don't believe your own bullshit.
Yeah, sure.
Like really understand who you are, what you do well. Don't try to pretend to be somebody you're not. And
of course,
keep your feet firmly on the ground. So we were very fiscally responsible. We made sure that our people knew that they had a place in our firm where they could learn and grow and, increase their level of responsibility. So, today, nearly 40 years after we founded Quadrangle, we introduced a couple of years ago, we introduced the 5th generation of principals of the firm. So, and all of those people have come and joined and worked hard and become part of the management table. But we are all Quadrangle. We're not Klein or any other name. We're Quadrangle. And that's a really important, I don't say distinction, but it's a really important part of our ethos.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. And I guess you've had a lot of people come into your organization, and they actually have branched out on their own as well. And some of them
over the years,
some of them very successful, which I know a few of them. I won't mention names because today's all about you. And
no, I think it's important. Phil Goldsmith, for example, left the firm about 10 years after we formed Quadrangle because he wanted to pursue heritage architecture, and he founded Goldsmith Borgel Architects, which is one of the premier heritage consultancy firms in the city, if not in the country. Very proud of him. We continue to collaborate and have great respect for him. Wonderful, wonderful guy. So, of course, people, sometimes they need to go their own way because, so did I.
Yes, of course. Well, sometimes people feel like they have an inner. They're talking to their inner self, and they have a need. They feel like there's a need to be an entrepreneur or a business person, or for whatever they want, freedom or more financial freedom, and they decide to do things for all sorts of reasons. And
exactly.
And that's okay. I'm sure you're in your firm. You encourage people to grow, and if it means that they have to leave Quadrangle, you're okay with it. You're probably okay with that.
We can't force people to stay. We have a kind of a jokey thing that we say is once a Quadrangler, always a Quadrangler. I have had many stories heard that of people who left, went to another firm, and I actually had once the principal of one of the firms they went to said, "What the heck are you doing with these people? Every time I tell them to do something, they say, that's not how we did it at Quadrangle."
Oh, my God. Well, once a Quadrangle, right?
Always a Quadrangle. Yeah, and we now, we now, and anyway, I can talk endlessly about that.
No, that's good. That's okay. It sounds great. So just give us an idea. What is at the core of your company? And I'm sure these your design philosophy has adapted and changed and evolved over the years. But tell us a little bit about where you're at right now and what your firm's identity, a little bit about your firm's identity and your design philosophy. Because I think that's the root of everything, right? In terms of design, and of course, we're not just thinking about solutions for today. We're looking at solutions for tomorrow and beyond. And I think there's a big change in the perspective of design, and including sustainability and inclusivity and accessibility, and tell us a little bit about what you're sort of at the forthright in terms of what are you looking at in terms of your design philosophy, and how are you at the forefront?
Well, I'm not sure we're at the forefront. I think we're at a very good place, and we continue to move forward. But But I also think a little humility is important in this business. But let me start a little bit further back, if I can say this, because as I mentioned, we formed Quadrangle in 1986, but in 2019 we joined BDP. And BDP is the largest or second largest, depending on which year you check, architecture and engineering firm in the UK. And BDP has 19 studios around the world. They were interested in having a foothold in Toronto. And I understand from them that they spoke to a lot of architectural firms in the city, talking about who might be the best fit. They decided that we were the best fit for them. Interestingly enough, not unlike us, BDP, which you would expect to be the names, the initials of principals, actually stands for Building Design Partnership.
Yes.
So they too had the philosophy that it's not about individuals, it's about the firm. We found it to be amazing, and in one very, very quick move, we achieved all of literally our 10-year strategic plan goals. We wanted to be diversified in geography. We wanted to be diversified in sectors. We wanted to be diversified in professions. And with BDP, we are now all of that.
You achieved all that.
Yeah. And we have now branched out beyond our core businesses. I mean, we have 4 core businesses in our studio, which is housing, and housing in all of its forms, condos, rental, housing for seniors, housing for people with special needs. We also do a lot of retail work, both rollouts for international brands coming to Canada, Canadian brands going to the US, and really around the world. We do workplace, so we do a lot of workplace in areas. We do what we now call media environments. We've been doing radio, television, and film for 40 years. We were the architects for City TV at 299 Queen Street, and then all of the stuff that came out. And we have a subspecialty in a company that we founded called Human Space. And Human Space is an architectural accessibility and wellness consultancy. It started out as a partnership with March of Dimes Canada, but advocating for and designing for accessibility. And it's really grown dramatically in terms of the work that we do, and we now do that kind of work around the world. But now with BDP, we're also doing healthcare projects, we're doing higher education projects, we're doing high-tech projects. So we're continuing to have fun. So I wanted to mention a couple of things, though, that are really important to us. One is that we did not, you asked about our design philosophy. So we always say that we don't have a style, we have style. Our buildings, our projects, we are proud to say, reflect the identity of our clients, not us.
Yeah, that's great.
As I started it out at the very beginning, our goal is to find a solution, the correct solution among all the solutions available to us that fits the needs of our clients. We're also known not only for design excellence and high quality construction documents, but we're also known for business acumen. We don't ask our clients, what do you want this building to look like? We ask them, what's your business plan? What are you trying to achieve out of this project? Because clearly you're not doing it just to have a picture that you can hang on the wall and say, I built that building. You have a design, you have a business philosophy and a business goals. We want to understand those so that we can give physical form to how you can achieve those goals. If I can be a little crude, we want to help you make a whole lot of money. And we don't want to be the cause of you not making money. We want to actually help you make money. And there's another philosophy that I have in the office, and I say this to all of my team. I say, don't forget, when you're working on this project, you're actually working on the next project. Because 80% of the work that we do in a given year is for repeat clients. And we have, as I said, we have clients that we've been working with for 20, 30, 40 years. And there is nothing in the world like a client who trusts you, understands you, and who you understand. And you can start to talk shorthand about, it's like we did that on that project, but now we have to do this. So that's kind of if you want, that's our design philosophy.
Okay.
But of course, we're also driven very much by our sense of responsibility to our society.
Yeah.
And we have been, again, I'm sorry I have all these silly sayings, but it's kind of the way my brain goes. So I used to say, when I talked about sustainability, I used to say, we've been doing sustainability since apple was a fruit and green was a color.
That's a good one. Well, good for you. Good for you.
So it's embedded in us. Again, was from my MIT training, where we always talked about how do we build more sustainably, how we put buildings on sites that take advantage of all of the elements that allow us to reduce energy consumption, that allow us to maintain a building for a much longer period of time, thinking in terms of 50 and 100 years, not 20 and 30 years. So those kinds of elements are fundamental to the way we think.
Yeah, great.
As a result of which we attract other people who are like-minded. I don't know, I guess it has to be 7 or 8 years ago, we created a position in our office called the Director of Innovation. Mm-hmm. We have a wonderful woman, senior associate of the firm, named Michelle Schwerb, who is our Director of Innovation. We've done amazing work in terms of sustainability analysis, of zero net carbon, of basically resiliency. And now we're looking a lot at prefabrication, ways to make prefabricated buildings architecture instead of just Lego blocks. Yeah. Which are, Lego blocks.
A lot of it is like the prefab work is a lot of Lego blocks for sure.
So just as an example of the kinds of things that we do. I'm sorry. Again, I gave you too long an answer.
No. You never apologize. This is great stuff.
Okay.
Well, I like some of those philosophies. I like the, especially saying, I guess at the end of the day, the project is more important than the self in your design 100%. Philosophy.
100%.
And I also like the fact that every time I get a job, everybody starts talking about the next job. And I say, listen, guys, I'm here to work on this job.
Yeah.
And, if I do a good job here, then I don't have to, we'll talk about that other job.
Exactly.
Yeah, because that's, So, I agree with you on that one too.
Build a relationship at the same time as you're building a building.
Yes. And, service plays a big part in that too. You have to be able to service your client very well and make sure you're there for them. You're answering the questions that they have and guiding them through the process, because, we've been, or, you especially, of course, but we've been there before. We know what to expect. We know how to, because you get all sorts of different clients out there, some that are more experienced than others.
Yeah.
And you have to sort of sometimes adjust your guidance with that client based on their experience. And,
very true.
Sometimes it's very tough to work with new clients and clients who haven't done something large or bold, and it's very intense sometimes and very risky, our industry, especially on the construction side too. So
I agree with you. I think the whole process is in itself and by its nature risky.
Yes.
So our objective in those things is to not to reduce or eliminate risk, but to understand and manage risk.
Yeah.
So people, when we make a decision, we do not make decisions for our clients. Yeah. Our operating approach is we give them information about all the range of options that they have.
Yeah.
We give them our best analysis of what the positives and benefits of each of those options are. We can even opine on how we think that fits into their business plan. But ultimately, they have to make the decision. And we will support them in whatever decision that they make.
Yes.
Well, okay, I've been around for a long time, so it surprises me that people actually listen to my opinion. And it's because it's not about me, it's about what I've learned and what I'm trying to share with them so that they can make informed decisions. I love that part. I absolutely love that process. Our entire design process is iterative. We start with the biggest picture. What's your business plan? What's your site? How can we approach this? What's the easiest way to get it approved, or what is going to give us the optimal return?
Yes.
Because one of the things that and I know is that more is not always
Better.
best.
Yeah.
I have to say sometimes less is pretty good. Sorry about that. I couldn't resist.
Well, I'm sure you use that on all your clients, right? To win them over. But yeah, I agree. And I think at the end of the day, we just have to, I also like to get a lot of, in a construction issue, you have so many stakeholders that are participating in the project, and you have to get that buy-in for an important decision. So I don't just say, "Oh, do it this way." I say,
Right.
"Hey, here are the options. Here are the solutions. Here's the problem. Here's the solutions." And I get buy-in from everybody. I'll go to the architect, structural engineer, mechanical, electric, talk to the owner, say, "Here, this is how much it's going to cost." So you get that complete buy-in. I never make a decision by myself.
Right. Well, that's why we get along so well, Nick.
Oh, there you go. Well, I'd love to work on a project with you one of these days.
As would we.
Yeah. Well, you'll see we're a pretty good construction management firm. We're a boutique firm, but we love what we do. I can tell you that. We have a big passion for building. But what it is it's about, and I guess I'm kind of hogging the show here, but it's about creating a great team in terms of when you're working on a project, because you have a couple of bad apples and you're going to have problems. And I'm sure you've seen your share of problems on construction sites or projects. And
of course.
You kind of have a sense of like, hey, what went wrong over there? Did we have a good site super? Maybe he wasn't experienced enough. Sometimes it's a very competitive industry. It's hard to get the best guys out there. And but usually you have a good client who knows what they're doing. That's good. That's good right off the bat. A good site super, and our staffing is great, and good trades. So
well, that's the key. I mean, I can't agree with you more profoundly. I think that's exactly right. We say that we like to work with people we like. It's in terms of relationship, it's not only these 20 and 30 and 40 year relationships with clients, but it's also 20 and 30 and 40 year relationships with consultants, with trades, with contractors. These things are priceless. They really are priceless. Yes. I mentioned earlier the idea of shorthand. Just being able to sit down with a contractor and, he's asking us about a window detail. And we say, well, it's just like the one we did over there at that project. And he goes, oh, yeah, now I understand. Well, we could make this a little bit better. And I have to say that I learned this very, very early on. My very first large project when I was still in that illegal loft, I think it was a 180 unit building, 9 stories in Mississauga. Mm-hmm. Look, it was huge for me, and I was very excited. The best thing that happened to me was I had a client who basically took me under his wing and said, here's how the development industry works. Here are the things that you need to do. And I, instead of saying, I'm an architect, I know everything, I said, teach me everything. Wow. And on the very same project, I had the most amazing, sadly he's passed on, but the most amazing site superintendent. He had seen everything. And he literally also took me under his left wing and taught me everything. I would go out for site visits and I was like a sponge. Yeah. I didn't pretend to know stuff. I knew what I had drawn, and I'd certainly seen it in previous offices, But even today, Nick, mm-hmm. when I stand on a site and they've just completed excavation, and I look at this gigantic hole, and I realize that hole is there because of what we did, how we worked together to make decisions that ended up with that gigantic hole in the ground. It takes my breath away, because it's an amazing expression of this process that we are all part of. It's kind of magic, It is. It's magic that it works. There's so many ways for it to go wrong. It's magic that it works.
Yeah, that's true. So tell us a little bit. So I'm a bit of an adaptive reuse guy myself. I've done a lot of factory conversions to condos and churches and schools to condos, all built pretty much around the same time period a lot of the times. Yeah. And, I recently bought a old courthouse and jail in Owen Sound with my wife, and we're converting it to an event venue and
fabulous
dining facilities, shared workspace, all of it, and hopefully it'll be successful. But and I wish I knew you, because I didn't know that Quadrangle was into adaptive reuse a lot. But it sounds like you are. And tell us about some of those projects that you worked on, and because I love history. And by the way, I studied architecture. I went to Ryerson for architecture.
Oh, cool!
And that's how I got into the industry. And yeah.
Oh, amazing, amazing! But so you're a recovered architect.
Yeah. I wasn't. I was a okay designer, but I feel like my passion is for project management, construction management, because I had those social skills, like you were talking about, and I could deal with, on one level, I can deal with an inspector on the site in one way and the consultants in another way. But I am also the high school bully going down to the job site and having fun with the trades. So, but you have to build that trust and camaraderie and respect on all levels.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, and I feel good that I went into that, because I think it's all about communication and solving problems, and I had some good technical skills. I was lucky to have innately, and basically, I'd love to hear more about some of because you guys were at the forefront of adaptive reuse, and I'd love to hear more about some of those projects that you worked on.
Well,
just a few. You don't have to go too crazy. But,
no, I will not. I promise. I promise I won't go on. You can go like this if you. It's fine. Adaptive reuse, if you want to call it that, renovation, restoration has been my passion. Actually, my thesis at MIT for my master's involved the renovation of an old apartment building and a new building behind it. That's a whole other story. But and when I first started my practice, I did a ton of renovations of houses and additions to houses. But I think it's fair to say that many of our most seminal projects, the most important projects of each kind of 5-year or 10-year period, were renovations. And some of them don't even look like renovations. But
right.
I think 299 Queen Street West for Chum and City TV really put us on the map. Mm-hmm. And that was a project that we worked on for 25 years. Because Moses Neimer had this vision of what a television station could be. And very early on, he glommed onto the idea of cable and specialty channels. So every time he got a license for another channel, whether it was, Much Music or Bravo or CP24 or any of those, we would go back in and renovate another section of that building for that.
Oh, that's amazing.
But not only was the building interesting in and of itself as a project, a lot of our buildings were kind of catalysts for regeneration of an entire neighborhood. City TV made Queen Street West.
Yeah, that's true.
Until then, it was used appliances, extra little pieces you could build for build your own computer, whatever. It was not exactly your high-end retail. Not much later than that, we did the Candy Factory lofts, which were was one of the two first loft projects in the city. There was the merchandise building, the old Sears warehouse.
Did you do that?
We did not do the Sears, but we did the Candy. We did the Candy Factory, and then shortly thereafter. And the Candy Factory created West Queen West, the whole Liberty Village kind of area. And then we did the Toy Factory loft in Liberty Village. And again, that was early on, and it was unique, and it was fabulous, and it was really special. But we also did the BMW showroom at the bottom of the Don Valley Parkway, which everybody thinks, oh my God, they built this beautiful building. That was the old Lever Brothers office building that we renovated into this 5-story, fabulous, basically gigantic billboard for BMW.
Yeah, of course.
And over the years, I'm going to cut myself off. Over the years, a lot of those buildings have been not only icons of this in themselves, but also demonstration projects that communities could be built in neighborhoods that nobody would have otherwise thought of doing.
Yes.
So that's that. If I say one more thing, and then
no.
The great thing about adaptive reuse is that it really creates a whole bunch of more parameters that you have to deal with. And I've said this to many clients. I said, not every project works as adaptive reuse. It has to have, as you know, it has to have the right bones.
Yes, of
if
course.
You're fighting against the building, it's never going to work. But if you're working with the building, it will be stunning.
Yes, of course.
20-foot bays for a residential conversion or 30-foot bays for an office conversion is pretty nice. And when you've done all of those things all those years, you can feel it pretty well. Where if the elevators are in the right place or the wrong place, the stairs are in the right place or the wrong place. But all of those things. But I find it exciting. I think I do. So exciting.
And then we bought that courthouse and jail, and we said, look, it doesn't make sense to rip everything down. We have to make our spaces work within this complex. Otherwise, it's going to be very costly for us.
Exactly.
And so that's what we did. We made it work for us. And dealing with the circulation of the building was very tough. And how do people get in and out of the building? I found myself spending hours myself trying to solve the problem, even though we did hire architects and everything like that. But sometimes I just couldn't let something go. I had to help solve the problem as well. But
you're an integral part of that process. It wouldn't have been a project without you. So
of course,
it's natural.
Yeah,
I want to know how you figured out how to get out of jail.
Well, I haven't gone to jail not yet, and I hope I never do. But didn't
you say it was a courthouse and jail? So I wanted to know.
Yeah. Well, we'll have you up there, okay? But you better be nice, or you might end up.
I will be. Of course. I might end up.
We'll leave you in a cell somewhere. But
as long as there's food and drink, I'm okay.
For that you'll have forever, so don't worry about that. We'll feed you. But I love the history of adaptive reuse. I love going to the older buildings and seeing the essence of what it was, and you try to bring that spirit into the building as well, so it never dies. So hopefully, that's what I would think is great adaptive reuse or renovating a building, is that you're taking something that was there before and you're bringing that back to life, so to speak. Keeping the essence of that history, because I think that's an important part of the story when you're doing a reno or something like that. And I love the stories of the older buildings, and whether it was a school or we had people who would come to the site and say, "Oh, I went to this school," and it's great that you're doing something with it. So I think that's a great part of the story that a lot of people don't talk about. But
another part of the story, of course, is that you're not throwing an entire building into landfill.
Yeah, of course.
And not an insignificant story in terms of sustainability and embedded carbon. So,
and we had
beautiful.
Yeah, we had beautiful buildings in Toronto over the decades, and we've lost a lot of great architecture, unfortunately. But we must move on, and I think at some point the city realized that we have to retain our heritage and retain some history are very important, and buildings tell that story sometimes. But
100%.
Anyways, let's talk about Toronto and generally the industry right now, because I guess you've been through a lot of cycles in the economy, and I wrote a little bit about Toronto's condominium industry, and I see a pattern where we're kind of like late 80s, 90s.
Early late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. I see some similarities. Of course, everything's, it's not exactly the same, but you have a very bad condo market right now. And we have a big shift in rental and struggle for home ownership. What are your thoughts about where we're heading right now? And even overall, Canada is in a very tough place right now. Our economy is not so great, and we have a lot of trouble elsewhere. And without getting too political here, because I think we'll just keep to the building industry, of course. But tell us a little bit about your opinion about the state of Canada's housing market and where you see things happening, because I'm personally, I don't like the fact that people can't afford housing and why we are not promoting that. I feel like there's this shift to rental, and I'm not a big fan of it in some regard, because I feel like people are pushing people not to think in a way that they should own a home, and they should.
Well, let me tackle that question, which was a really, really good question in a couple of different ways. So I've been in practice for 47 years. Sorry.
Well, you look great. You look great. So what can we say?
So, and I'm very active in an organization called ULI, Urban Land Institute.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And about a year and a half ago, I was part of a panel that they called Recession Veterans. Oh. And there were 5 of us on the panel, and I spoke last. And people before me had said, I've been through 3 recessions, I've been 4 recessions, I've been through 5 recessions. And my presentation was called 6 Lessons from 6 Recessions.
Wow.
And it was very well received. It was quite short. You can look it up on the ULI website. I think it's still there. But my basic message about the downturn is twofold. I've learned 2 things from recessions. One is that they're over eventually. Mm-hmm. And that's really important. This is not the end of the world. This is a cycle. We will get through this process. And the other important lesson that I try to keep internalized is that there's no return to normal. Yeah. There will be a new normal when we come out of this. And all of us are trying to figure out what that new normal is. Right. And I think it's really important to keep that in mind. So, I think that right now we are in that exploratory, investigative, inventive stage. We're all trying to figure out how to get out of this. I still remember you referred to the 1989, 1990 downturn, where it went from people making paper airplanes out of their deposit checks to get to the front of the line to buy their condominiums to nobody buying a condominium, right. And people having to shift very, very quickly. In those days, the government was very much into the business of social housing and assisted housing. In my opinion, housing is an essential element of a healthy society. So I am completely in agreement with you that the fact that people cannot afford a home or are spending way too much of their income on housing themselves is a sign of a not healthy society. My view, which may not be popular, I do think that the government has a role that they can play to provide housing for the most needy, because you cannot be a functioning member of society unless you have stability in your home, in your house, in your housing tenure. That there has to be certainty for you to feel that you can go out and get a job, make a family, raise children. Those things are essential to a healthy society. And if you look around the world, that where that is missing, that's where you have troubled societies. Okay, that said, I do think that there is nothing more powerful than the private sector market. And I think that we as a society, although developers get a very, very bad name, architects get a similarly bad name, they're just looking for pretty buildings. I think developers understand that they are not working in a vacuum, that there is a societal responsibility that they too carry. Many, many of our clients are not building because I can't make money. They cannot be irresponsible to themselves and to their investors. But at the same time, they are almost desperate to find a solution where they can bring housing to the market and create opportunities for people to be housed, and ideally to be housed in an affordable manner. So the market will ultimately speak in this issue, and we will come out of this with solutions that we don't yet know. Yeah. I know. I understand where your take is on rental housing, but I actually think that if we look again around the world, in healthy societies and healthy cities in particular, and this is my point, rental is not a housing of last resort. Rental is a housing option. And there are a lot of places where rental works very, very well. I grew up and went to school in Boston, New York, San Francisco, Paris, London. People rent because it's an option for them. It creates more mobility, for one thing. You're not sunk all of your capital into a place where you then have to sell it before you can move. It creates opportunities for people to fluctuate in and out of the market. When you're young, you rent, then you buy. Then maybe instead of buying a condominium when you sell your house, you rent, and you use that disposable income for investment, for travel, for other things. So I'm not advocating one thing or another.
No,
I'm just saying that the wider range of options we can offer people, the healthier our society will be. And our goal has to be twofold. It has to be a supply, and it has to address the affordability issue. For the most needy, the government should step in and do what it can because it needs to, because the market cannot. But for others, we need to understand that we can provide a range of options and a range of opportunities that can actually address our needs. We kind of have a moment to take a breath, given our current situation where nothing is working. Immigration is slowed down, so the pressure from that is a little bit less. But let's take this opportunity to think through what we need to do in order to address those three issues: affordability, supply, and demand.
You think innovation will play a significant role in this coming out of this?
Absolutely.
I think we have a lot of modular type products that are going to be progressive over the next few years, and also there's AI in terms of changing our industry as well. Even I'm using it, although in productivity issues primarily, but it's still being used, and it's good. It's good if you're in a bind and you need something done quickly.
I agree with you completely. Yeah. We are going to use all of the resources that we have at hand to address these issues, and because we're driven to that. We're not sitting on our hands. We're driven to that.
Yes,
Every
course.
Conversation I have has something to do with it, and kudos to the federal government for giving this idea a kickstart, because the challenge in the prefabrication industry is scale.
Yes.
You can't solve the housing problem by building 250 houses a year.
Yeah.
But if 50 people are building 500 houses a year, now you're starting to see a massive impact, and you're starting to see impact on affordability and on supply. And that's the nature of it. But we may find other things too.
Of course.
There's also
there's all sorts of Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No. You go. You're my guest.
There are unique ideas about tenure. There are unique ideas about sharing. But those kinds of things are, garden houses, the missing middle. All of those conversations are happening too, and they'll address the problem in 1s and 2s and 6s and 8s.
Yeah, for sure.
But the bigger the market, our industry, your industry, yours and my industry, Nick, are going to be the ones that are going to have to address the bulk of this problem. And we are all thinking about it. There are a lot of really, really smart people around.
Yeah, and
we'll figure those out.
And there's great opportunity in this moment too. So that's when we all have to bear down and work harder and come up with new ideas. That's what's going to make us succeed, of course. And Les, let me just tell you, this has been an amazing interview, and this is I'm very honored to be here and talking with you today.
I am equally honored and humbled that you asked. So thank you so much.
I hope we can get together one of these days for coffee or something like that, and to say hello to each other. And
we should work together.
Well,
we should work together.
I would love to do that. Les. So we will be in touch, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
We really, really enjoyed this. So and thank you for the great information you provided to us.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Mike. Much appreciated.
And thank you for listening to Building Toronto's Skyline, a podcast exploring the current state of Toronto's construction and development industry, proudly brought to you by Fusion Corp Developments, Inc. Please share, like, and subscribe. See you again in 2 weeks.